How many languages have Sanskrit as their origin? There's a myth that Sanskrit is the mother of all languages, and there's a myth that Sanskrit is the mother of no languages, and there's also a myth that Sanskrit is the mother of any languages whatsoever. Allow me to explain that. Latin, as mentioned in this answer, came in two varieties. The first was Classical Latin. If you've ever studied Latin, Classical Latin is almost certainly the one you studied. It was the form used by the upper class, poets, and politicians. Classical Latin begot exactly one language, Ecclesiastical Latin, aka Church Latin. The other flavor was Vulgar Latin. Not that it was a vulgar form of Latin, vulgaris was Latin for common, or average, person, so Vulgar Latin just means Latin is spoken by regular people. Vulgar Latin was the real, living sort of Latin, the fluid kind that changed and existed as a truly spontaneous language. Classical Latin, which I'll be abbreviating as classical for the rest of this answer, was created out of its vulgar parent via the creation of standard rules that were adhered to in speeches and in writing. Not many people outside the upper class spoke classical daily. No, the situation is comparable to the one in Britain, where the standard British accent, RP, is frequently heard but rarely spoken. The rules classical was bound to stay almost exactly the same for the centuries it was used. A language dies not with its last speaker. A language that's no longer spoken by anyone is called extinct. Classical Latin still has speakers, but it's famously dead. This is possible because a language has died when it stopped changing. Since classical changed very little, it was effectively dead from conception. Vulgar, though, continued to change, something every language does, and something that's required for the definition of living. The Romance languages come from Vulgar, not Classical Latin. Romance language family tree. Languages in red are no longer spoken. So what does this have to do with Sanskrit? Latin and Sanskrit have many parallels, and this is one that's mirrored almost exactly. Sanskrit is called Sasktam in Sanskrit, from Saskta with acute, meaning refined. It was the variety spoken by the socially superior and was the kind that major literary works were written with. In other words, it not only acted as the refined, i.e., upper class, formal, and literary language, it was named so, too. The average people, on the other hand, spoke Prakrit, from Prakta, which meant normal or vernacular. This was the real, living sort, the fluid kind that changed and existed as a truly spontaneous language. Sanskrit was refined from Prakrit via the creation of rules that changed little over the centuries it was used. As a result, classical Sanskrit begot exactly one language, modern Sanskrit, spoken by about 15,000 people across the Indian subcontinent. Prakrit, however, had no need to stay the same. All living languages change, it's in the very definition, after all. So Prakrit split into dialects that split into languages that split into dialects that split yet again into languages. To answer your question, the only language that comes from Sanskrit is, well, Sanskrit, in a revived and edited form. But alright, sure, fine, how many languages find their origin among the Prakrit varieties? I can't give you an exact number there, for the simple reason that languages are still changing and splitting into dialects that will split into languages and then keep splitting. Exactly when a dialect has split into another language is an iffy question, too. Are Hindi and Urdu the same language, or have they separated enough, linguistically and politically, that they're distinct? I can offer you, though, Ethnologue's list of Indo-Aryan languages, with the caveat that it divides varieties into dialects and languages in an arbitrary manner, which, well, it has to if it wants to list languages. Thanks for asking.